Welcome everybody, Jason Rosen here with Troy Opperly, once again, the CEO of US Enzymes, here to talk about another product in our line, one that's very near and dear to Troy's heart for sure, mine as well. One that's probably actually helped him peak a few of the mountains in the days, and it is our product called Nattozyme, which is our Nattokinase product, and yet don't freak out soys, there is absolutely zero soy in this product. So Troy, why don't you take it away a little bit here on the history of this product and tell us a little bit more why this guy was put together and why, you know, we love it so much.
Yeah, so this goes back to a Japanese researcher that was actually studying here in the U.S. So he was looking for an agent that could work at breaking down blood clots that are associated with heart attacks and strokes. So in that process, I think this was probably 1980 is when the enzyme was first discovered, and it was one of those things like the 3M sticky notes that it was almost by accident, right? That he had put this in the petri dish and left it, and then came back 18 hours later, and everything had been dissolved. So it was like one of those cool stories. So and then he was the guy that obviously it came from natto, which is the fermented food that the Japanese culture eats. So this was the perfect fit. So he was able to name it nattokinase, right? So
nice way to link the enzyme to a food.
Yeah, and it's nattokinase. Simply the definition, it just means enzyme in natto. So, which is cool. So it's totally appropriate.
Yeah, so why don't we touch maybe a little bit on the function of this guy and then the most important part, which would be, the source.
Yeah, and just another bit on the history thing too, because think that the enzyme was discovered in 1980. It really didn't even make it into the U.S. market until well into past the year 2000. I believe it was 2002 that it started gaining some recognition and started, doctors started picking it up, using it, experimenting with it, and posting their results. So, I mean, just think, that's 22 years of, okay, it's it's been around for a long time, in other words, and they've done a lot of research, again, that, going to PubMed, check it out. So I think the main thing that obviously we talked about that was just the different mechanisms in which nattokinase works. And one of the coolest things, I think, is the fact that it's very similar to the body's production of plasmin, which is the body's own natural enzyme that helps to break down and dissolve, blood clots.
Yeah,
so it almost mimics that. So that's why the body's able to utilize it so efficiently and effectively. So, and it's also one of those enzymes, like we talk about that in some of our more kind of woo-woo seminars, but it's like, there's a mechanism in place there, like it knows, like, not necessarily a consciousness, but something like that it still allows, like if you were to take this, and what I'm doing here is kind of like a side-by-side comparison with a pharmaceutical drug. So if you took a pharmaceutical drug that would do something similar to nattokinase, it would thin the blood such that if you cut yourself, you could potentially bleed to death. That would never happen with nattokinase. So if you started taking nattokinase, it'll produce the result, but yet it knows, right? It still offers the slipperiness, or the red blood cells to have that slipperiness and do what they need to do, but not enough that that the body couldn't still clot, right? Blood and prevent you from bleeding to death. So again, some just really cool behind the scenes things that this enzyme is capable of doing.
One of my absolute favorite examples, sorry to interrupt you, is a study that's actually on our website showing that, a person took, 3,000 units of orally taken, this wasn't through an IV, nattokinase, and they did a pre and post angiogram within, what was it, like 10 hours or something. And you could see that the natto knew exactly where to go in the man's leg to start deplaquing his artery. I mean, that is just amazing. Like you talked about, it's got an intelligence to it.
Yeah, and if we go back to, just as far as kind of a just from the studies and research that have been done, some of the bullet points as far as, why would you take this, or what are the health benefits of this specific enzyme? So, starting with like it will help normalize blood pressure, obviously aids in preventing blood clots from forming, and also aids in the natural dissolution of those existing clots. So again, keeping the blood vessels clean, increasing the body's natural production of plasmin, which we talked about that already.
Insulin fibrinogen. It's great for anyone that's got diabetes.
Yep. And again, may aid in the prevention of, angina, strokes, varicose veins, muscle spasms, pain, all of that. And then, of course, going back to the main function in which Dr. Sumi was doing his research, and that's just, helping prevent heart attacks and strokes,
Yeah, absolutely. It's a wonderful player. So, moving on to the source, which is a huge deal with this guy. Could you kind of enlighten us on a bit there?
Yep. So again, going back to the fermentation process, because we'll see in some of these slides how companies are labeling their products, and it's mislabeling, to their detriment. So obviously, anything that's used in the fermentation process, as far as the medium that it begins with, is eaten up in the process and is not in the final product. So obviously, this is a soy-based product, right? Because it came from, natto, which is just fermented soybeans. So as the bacteria and the fungi eat that medium up, then in the whole process where it goes on the back end of the fermentation process, then it just goes through all the ultrafiltration processes, and you end up with just a pure enzyme. So there is nothing, and these have been tested. So you send them into the lab. Is there, like whether you use wheat or soy, I mean, you can test it and go, yeah, there's nothing in it, and the FDA recognizes that. Right. So this is a soy-free product.
Yeah, absolutely amazing product. I mean, and it's got a lot of other functions. It's just such a good deplacker. I know a lot of the practitioners I work with will use it for things like, for people who have issues with calcium oxalate kidney stones, which some, research alludes to like a nanobacterial infection. It just seems to really do the job on, taking plaque out of the body as well. Just a lovely little guy. So there's lots of nattokinases in the marketplace. So Troy, why don't we maybe just take a look at a few of the major players out there, and then we'll, kind of talk a little bit about our formulation.
Yeah, just a couple more things on the study side of it. I mean, because one thing that I think we mentioned maybe in the Therazyme video or webinar was just that the study that was done by the British Airways called Flight Tab. So they were looking for something to prevent DVT. So people get off the plane after sitting transoceanic flights for, 6, 8, 10 hours or longer, get up, and then they keel over dead, when that hits their heart. So yeah, this was what the solution was. It was a combination of, I believe, grapeseed extract and nattokinase is what they came up with. So again, just another testimony, because they put that out to not only nutraceutical companies, but all the pharmaceutical companies, and this is what won out.
Amazing.
Yes. Okay, so going back to, we can look at some of the different sources that are out there. So obviously there continues to be some debate. So as we go through these slides, we'll kind of touch on some of those potential issues. So in our first product here, product comparison, it's good. Its serving size is 1 veggie cap. We like that. Nattokinase, 2000 FU. So that, again, we'll just mention that the regular, if you want to call it oral daily dose, this is kind of like the lowest possible level to see results, is 2000 FU per dose. Right. So this is spot on. Like if you want to, like you mentioned that one study that was on the website with 3000. So, officially what happens is the therapeutic dose is typically, 2 to 4 times or 2 to 3 times that, right? Because what you want to do with nattokinase, highest activity in the bloodstream lasts from 6 to 8 hours after you take it orally. So it's best to spread it out. So if it's, 8 hours, you take it every 8 hours. So
Maximize the
then,
half-life, of course.
yeah, yep. So then you're going to get the maximum therapeutic dose for that. But again, just from label claims, so there's nothing that's, no issues with the label on here. So we just go down and look at other ingredients. This is where the opportunity, the people
Yep.
that are formulating these products to really show what they can do. So obviously the first thing on there's modified cellulose. So that's your vegetable cap, which is fine. Now you have maltodextrin, which is from corn. So more than likely it doesn't say IP maltodextrin. So this is a corn that's GMO
Yep.
in origin. Then you have mag stearate, which there's a whole bunch of controversy about putting any kind of stearate in your product. So,
Absolutely.
and then here's the kicker. Yeah, contains soy. So I was like, so these people are badly misinformed, right?
Right.
Even down at the bottom under the warning, it says if you're pregnant, nursing, or allergic to soy, don't take this product. I'm like, wow. So, sad commentary here. They didn't do their homework, and obviously they're putting stuff in there that does not need to be in there.
Absolutely. Covering
Let's-
their behinds for
Yeah.
who knows why.
Yeah. So again, they just have no. They're not on the inside. They're just listening to what someone else is telling them.
And to mention, so everyone knows, we are like choosing the labels, and on purpose we're keeping the names of the companies off these, but we are choosing the top pharmaceutical grade, companies that sell usually to practitioners. So we're trying to find the best companies out there that make NATO, and try to compare them side by side with
Exactly. Like these would be names every doctor would be familiar with.
Yes, right.
Okay, so looking at our second option here, so again, they have a little spiel at the top here: purified encapsulated nattokinase enzyme derived from boiled soybeans and Bacillus subtilis natto, vegetarian natto additive. And this one just happens to be free of vitamin K2. So our product does have vitamin K2 in it. So
yes,
very small amounts. And then as we come down here, so ingredients. So again, this is in a soft gel. So some people say, oh, a soft gel is better. I mean, when you look into it, it's like most of them, at least the ones, the research I've seen, right? It's like they're enteric coated so that they release in your small intestine, not in your stomach. It's not going to do any good in your stomach.
right.
And again, that's why you take it on an empty stomach, let it pass through and do its thing. So with a soft gel, I go, that's going to get dissolved in your stomach. So
You're
that's
never going to get it into your bloodstream, or not at least the amounts that you would like.
Yeah, and if you're, it's not going to be as effective, right? That's the main thing. You're kind of losing some potency and effectiveness by putting it in this format. And then look at the other ingredients. So again, soybean oil. So this, now this one, this is what should be labeled on their thing: contains soy, right? If you're allergic to soy, do not take this product, blah, blah, blah. So obviously, yeah, a big no-no there. Gelatin. So now you're into animal products, right?
Yep.
Animal byproducts. Glycerin. I mean, who wants to, take glycerin? Now you got another soy allergen, soybean lecithin, glycerin, fatty acid ester, and then beeswax. I'm like, okay, I don't want any one of those things going into my body.
Right.
And then coupled with the fact that, it's going to be opening up in your stomach and losing most of its potency before it even gets absorbed through your gut wall. And then the last thing we'll mention here is just, this is a special registered trademark version of nattokinase. So this is pretty ubiquitous out in the marketplace. The market is very small. And obviously this company is trying to differentiate itself from other competitors. We have no issue with that. It's just the fact that they're making a lot of claims that they haven't proven. So, I mean, I talked to the owner of the company and, okay, send me over the information so I can review it and ascertain whether there's any validity to it or not. And nothing has shown up, after multiple requests. So I'm disappointed. It doesn't necessarily reflect poorly on the product. I mean, we still sell it and use that in our formula, but again, I understand marketing and all that stuff. So, but again, it's a recognized NSKSD or a recognized nattokinase with the registered, and then it's got the 2000 FU, so it needs that. So the only real issue here is how they're how they're how they're dosing it, putting it in a soft gel.
Yes, and adding a bunch of allergens and
Yep.
things that necessarily you probably would not want.
Yeah, especially from a doctor, right? I mean, these are your clients. I mean, you're going to be held accountable at some level, some day that you go, you're telling people to take these things, and with all that stuff in it, I go, there's obviously going to be issues with that somewhere down the line. So, it's better safe than sorry.
Goes around. Right.
Yeah. So just don't do it. I mean, that would be my advice. Okay, so let's look at the third one here. So again, we have a 1 capsule dosage. That's great. Nattokinase, 100 milligrams, and then they've got here providing 2,000 FU units per capsule. So that's great. No issues there. So again, then skipping on down to the other ingredients. So gelatin. So I'm going to have to assume that that's the capsule, right? So now they're taking a vegetarian enzyme or a vegan enzyme and putting it into a gelatin capsule, and then they're adding MCC, which, okay, I mean, that's somewhat neutral. No real big issue with that. It's just plant fiber. But again, there's really not a lot of, benefit to taking that, because if you look at this, I don't know the capsule size. That's the only thing here. So if it's a 250 milligram capsule or a 500 milligram capsule, there could be quite a bit of. There's
just a ton, a bunch of other things in there that.
Yeah, you got mag stearate, which you don't want to do. And now you have maltodextrin. That's not, identity preserved or IP. So it's from a GMO.
GMO corn.
Yep. So you got a bunch of suspect things that you shouldn't be, giving to your patients.
All right. Well, let's move on to this one.
Wow. Okay. This looks familiar. So, let's just, try to look at this from an objective perspective. So again, you got a 1 capsule dosage coming down here, nattokinase listed. You got a little bit. So on here, it's 2,200 FU. So that's just a little over what, the standard 2,000 FU activity dosage is, which is great. So you got a little bit extra there. And again, there are no other ingredients. So that's what maybe they forgot to put that on there. No, I mean, there's not.
There's not any other ingredients. Yes.
There's nothing else in there. So I go, you have catalase in the mineral blend, which we'll talk about in a minute. So again, this is just a smart way to formulate and put products together. You put things in there that are going to be of benefit to your clients, not to their detriment.
Yes. And so many doctors out there work with vegan and vegetarian patients. I mean, those last 3 products right there, I mean, that's going to be a big problem for them.
Yeah. And then the other thing I want to mention on here is enzyme blend. So this is more than 1 nattokinase that's in the product. So it's not real clear, real evident. So, we could look at redoing the label to make that a little more clear, or offering more clarity on that. So this product originally started with 3 enzymes, 3 nattokinases. So the first one is the one that Dr. Sumi actually created, that's owned to this day. Actually, he sold the patent and the rights to Honda Trading Company. So that's the first source of what's in here. The second source is NSKSD, which we talked about.
Branded.
So that's in there. And then the third and final one is a nattokinase that we source from Taiwan. So those are the 3 different components that make up the blend. So that's why you're kind of getting the best of all possible worlds here. So it's not just one company's, again, not that I don't mistrust any one company, but that you're kind of hand picking the best of the best and then putting that into the formula. So that's what the enzyme blend is all about, because normally it doesn't say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points. I mean, you've taught me a lot about enzymes and how sourcing is everything, and some of the stuff that's coming out of India has caused some serious problems for a lot of people. And I know you source from the fermentation kings, the Taiwan, Koreans, Japanese.
Yeah, but there are some counterfeit nattokinases out there, so that's why I'm not 100% sure of they have some little trademark after it, right? So I don't know if it's just nattokinase 1, nattokinase 2, nattokinase 3, something like that. I've seen that. That stuff's either coming from India or China, and is completely, you're not going to see the results. It's a counterfeit nattokinase. So you definitely got to keep your eyes out for that. So,
Yeah.
and then there is one other thing just important. I mean, obviously, I think we didn't have a slide for this, but with all the proteolytic enzymes, there's that little caution or warning label that just says, hey, if you're taking a blood thinner like Coumadin and warfarin, I go that you want to make sure that you consult with your doctor or physician, first, to make sure that, because both of these things are essentially doing the same thing. So you could have some issues that you'd want to avoid, right? So that's one of the things. And then the other important thing that a lot of people don't know, and we probably need to post this now that I think about it on our site, but there are a number of ingredients that actually inhibit nattokinase activity. So we're gonna want to post that. So the main ones, right, ingredients inhibiting nattokinase activity would be ascorbates of any type.
Yeah.
Garlic powder. Yep. Garlic powder, hawthorn, vinegar. So again, if you're, apple cider vinegar, any kind of, koji vinegar, anything of that nature. You have black sesame, and on here they have grapeseed, and then polyphenol from apple.
Oh, from apples, yeah. Well, that's a great reason why I tell people to take, dose this product in the evening. So it should be taken well away from those things. And then at a 3 capsule per day dosage, I usually tell docs, give them 2 in bedtime, 1 in the morning before they eat. And we just suggest staying away from fortified foods in the morning, and hawthorn berry and vinegar and black sesame. They should be fine.
Yep. Okay, so I think we've covered all aspects as far as the nattokinase. So I think is the next slide.
Yes. So another thing to point out, in the other blends, we didn't see these added things, which, we have a really nice player called catalase at a really nice dose that is a beautiful enzyme, and it's a catalyst to basically, in best way I could put it, and it just makes everything work better. So Troy, I want you to talk a little bit about catalase.
Yeah, we mentioned this on most of our things because it is, the kind of enzyme that we put in there instead of these other non-beneficial ingredients. So it's an antioxidant enzyme, so it'll break down hydrogen peroxide, and it does this at a prolific rate. I mean, this is probably the most active enzyme that has been documented, period. So, and scientists say anywhere between 5 to 40 million bonds that are cut every single second with this enzyme. So,
it's the antioxidant of enzymes by far.
Yeah, off the charts. So, I mean, if you want to, reduce free radical damage,
superoxide, hydrogen peroxide. Yeah, this is your
guy. So again, that's why it's in there. It's a vegan source. It's clean. It comes from fermentation. Zero issues. Zero contraindications. There's no there are no downsides to taking it. So
and this would be a good point for me to maybe step back and let people know the sources of these things are through fermentation. So that's how the enzyme is obtained. So if your patients have like a histamine issue, there's absolutely no worry for you to give them these products. The fermentation is just sourcing the product rather than your patient drinking some kombucha or something like that, where people that have histamine issues will react to that strongly. This is just the way that the enzyme's obtained. So there's absolutely no worry about taking an enzyme that comes through fermentation or a nutrient, like in our D or vitamin B12 products.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, maybe we mentioned that before, but if you look at the history of what's happened in the world of enzymes since they were introduced in this country in the early 80s, is that the animal enzymes were dominant back in those days. And also the plant-based enzymes. So you've got your pancreatins, you have your
bromelain,
chymotrypsin, bromelain, papain. So now fast forward, 20 years, even the entire industry, and to date, I mean, I would say that probably 90+% of the enzymes found anywhere, whether it's on the internet, in the store, or through a healthcare professional company, are fermented enzymes. They have quite literally taken over the entire industry.
and rightfully so. I mean, it makes it a lot cleaner product. It's environmentally sustainable. It's the best way to do it.
Yeah, and the most cost effective. So that's why obviously the market is driven by, especially with the internet, by pricing. So now you have the absolute, most efficient way to produce enzymes are through fermentation. Like you said, it's all done indoors in a lab. There are no such, like, just in the last few years, it's been incredibly frustrating as well as like interesting. Like wow, there's a shortage of, like one of the pineapple factories closed down in Thailand, suddenly worldwide shortage of bromelain,
right?
Or papain is so labor intensive that most countries are getting out of farming it. So there's a shortage of papain now. Or go on the other side, to the animal side, you have China, which they're scarfing up all resources around the planet, in a strategic manner. So now they've made a concerted effort because of their affinity for eating pork, that they've bought all the carcasses of all. They eat the entire thing. They don't, like us, we just eat the parts we like, and send the rest off to have it be extracted, for in the enzyme industry. But now there's a shortage of porcine,
proteases,
mainly, like pepsin. You can't even get it. It's like ridiculous. And the price has gone through the roof. So there's all these different pressures and things put on through animal-based and plant-based that you simply are not going to have those issues with fermented enzymes. So it's the best of all possible worlds.
And we should mention, still probably the top enzyme company in the world derives a lot of their enzymes still through animals, which is crazy. So
yep.
Okay, so the last piece, which is kind of the piece of resistance that we put in all of our products for people that are really into not only science, but understanding bioluminescence and energy and how things really work through geometrics, is the mineral blends. So Troy, why don't you take it away on this piece?
Yep. So again, kind of going back to research that's been done for years, that very, very minute trace amounts of minerals are needed. It's kind of like the key that unlocks the full potential of the enzyme activity. So without that, the enzymes are simply not going to be as effective. So that's why, in choosing this particular mineral blend, again, going back to the geometric pattern of enzymes, they're basically all tetrahedrons or four-sided pyramids.
Right.
So this mineral mimics that exactly. So it's the exact same geometric pattern. And there are some there's a handbook, which is kind of a joke, because it's about 1,500 pages and about 4 inches thick, of the different uses, including medical uses for this mineral. It's and there's one interesting one interesting sentence that stood out from the entire book, so that I always kind of reference that. It's the fact that this mineral has the ability to mimic the activity of enzymes. And I'm like, I haven't researched or investigated that any further, but I just thought that was absolutely profound.
Yeah, so it's like the mineral must have an intelligence as well as the enzyme must have an intelligence, because we do know they exchange light. So that's pretty crazy.
Yep. So anyway, there's more to that story that'll unfold over time. But yeah, definitely multiple reasons for putting that in there. So again, it's the one thing that kind of differentiates what we're doing versus what other companies are doing, because most of them you won't see that, and if you do, it's some mineral of whatever that particular manufacturer might just have on hand. So there's no rhyme or reason for them putting it in there. right? Or it's not really tried, true, or tested, or there's no real synergistic benefits of having it in there. So
Yeah.
again, just one more reason or one more little detail as to why we're the go-to company for enzymes.
Yep. Just little bonuses along the way, and again, it's an honor for me to help people get educated about enzymes, and really teach them not only what they can do, but how to really understand sourcing them, understanding them, and knowing, weeding through the muck and the mire to find what's the real deal. So I guess I just wrap by saying, to the doctors, obviously this is going to be huge for your blood pressure patients, your diabetic patients, huge for your peripheral neuropathy patients, and your patients with all kinds of kidney issues, and the list goes on. And if you guys want to learn some more about this product and work on your cases, you can reach us at our website, my email, or just request an account right off the site. And then from there, you can get the access to the back of our website, where we have a lot of research, a bunch of videos that Troy and you've done, and we will just be continuing to add more and more and more and more.
All right. Well, this was awesome. I appreciate the opportunity to share some of the knowledge and just the kind of like behind the scenes of how these products are put together and what's in them and why we do that.
Yeah, and that's what I love about you, man, is getting the real deal and understanding the true behind the scenes knowledge, as you said. So always an honor to have you with me here, and we'll look forward to the next one. Good night, everyone.
Sounds great. Thanks.